The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
This is a reading of the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus proclaimed, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. The hired hand, who is no shepherd, no owner of the sheep, catches sight of the wolf coming and runs away, leaving the sheep to be snatched and scattered by the wolf. And that is because he works for pay. He has no concern for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. In the same way that the Father knows me, and I know the Father. For these sheep I will give my life. And I have other sheep that do not yet belong to this fold. I must lead them too, and they shall hear my voice. There shall be one flock then, one shepherd. The Father loves me for this, that I lay down my life to take it up again. No one takes it from me. I lay it down freely. And I have the power to lay it down and the power to take it up again. This command I received from my Father." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So nice to preach from the front of the front pew in a Catholic church because there's all this room. As human beings with human experience, we're well aware that there can be 5 of us sharing the same experience, and we'll have 5 different interpretations of that experience, 5 different ways of viewing that experience. And in our interpretations, that tells us as much about us as it does about the experience. Amen? Yeah. And so when we go to the New Testament, particularly when we go to the 4 Gospels, and the early church in its wisdom, there were a number of Gospels that were written. We have learned that over the last century as these have been uncovered. But the 4 that were chosen for a number of reasons, beginning with that they were all written in the first century. They were all written between 70 and 100 AD, while other Gospels were written later, sometimes even in the 2nd century or even the 3rd century. And so it had to do with antiquity. It had to do with, well, here we're now at the 3rd generation of Christians, which is closest to the 2nd generation and the 1st generation, all right? And that these were all based upon oral traditions that had circulated through Christian communities for decades, and that they began to be put into writing. And in the writings, in the development of these stories about Jesus, they all revolved around the most critical story, which is the story of his passion and his death and resurrection, which are the final chapters of all 4 Gospels. So literally, you have to go to the final chapters of all 4 Gospels to see what the point of the story is. What is the moral? What is the most fundamental interpretation about this Jesus? Okay? And then everything that comes before that is written in light of that. Okay? And so when you go to the Gospel of Mark and you read his interpretation, his oral traditions that he was writing down for his community, you would see this is the Jesus who undergoes the passion and the death and the resurrection, okay? And then you go back through the rest of Mark, and you see how it was written and why it was written that way. Okay? Same with all the Gospels. And so each Gospel has certain things in it that are unique to each Gospel, as well as certain things in it that are common to, say, to at least one other Gospel, or maybe the two other Gospels. And then there's the Gospel of John, which comes up with all these traditions and stories and things like his declaring, I am the Good Shepherd. Only in John is that declared, okay? Not that there wasn't shepherd images in the other Gospels, but it didn't have the same message, quite the same message as John's Gospel does. And it really comes from his interpretation of the passion and the death of Jesus. Namely, this last verse. The Father loves me for this, that I lay down my life to take it up again. No one takes it from me. I lay it down freely. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it up again. Okay? So, when you read that, and even before you go to the Passion according to John, what you're going to read is you're going to read about the power of Jesus. His power to lay down his life and his power to take it up again, and no one takes it from him. So what happens when you go to the Passion, number one, there is no agony in the garden. Okay? And number two, Jesus is in charge, even when he's arrested, even when he's put on trial by the Sanhedrin, even in his dialogue with Pilate, and even from the cross. Who's in charge? Jesus. He's laying down his life. And after he's laid it down, he's going to take it up again. No one takes it from him. Not the Sanhedrin, not Pilate, not the soldiers, not his betrayer. No one does. He's doing the will of the Father. And he is not in agony about that. He is in command about that. Okay? So that's a different Jesus than in Mark. It is. And given how fragmentary we are as human beings, given that if there are 5 of us having the same experience, there's going to be 5 different interpretations, we need the diversity of interpretations of Jesus. We need the Gospel of John, and we need the Gospel of Mark. And they are at the 2 extremes. Okay? We need them both. We need this emphasis on the humanity of Jesus. Like, it comes most clear in Mark's portrayal of the agony in the garden. That is the most human you see Jesus in all 4 Gospels. And in John, that's the most divine you see Jesus. He has the power. He's in control, even while being crucified. Okay? And that is essential to his shepherding. Okay? It isn't that he has the courage to lay down his life for the sheep. He has the power to lay it down and the power to pick it up again. The wolf has no power over him. Never had, never will. That's why we are his flock. That's why none of us get lost. And none of us is ever alone. Because he has the power to shepherd us and be with us always. Amen? Okay. Now, the last verse of the second reading from the first letter of John, chapter 3. So you have the same author and the same community who is receiving these letters. Okay? Dearly beloved, we are God's children now. What we shall later be has not yet come to light. We know that when it comes to light, we shall be like God, for we shall see God as God is. Okay? Obviously, I took the liberty of taking out the pronoun him and putting in God. Just to make sure, I know you wouldn't take that liberty, but you know how I am. So to make it clear that the pronoun him really refers to God. We shall be like God, for we shall see God as God is. Okay? Jesus made a promise on the night before he died. It's in John 14. And he tells his disciples, and he's telling us, each and every one of us, when the time comes, I shall come back to take you with me, so that where I am, you will also be, in the presence of God. You shall see God as God is, because I'm going to come back and take you there. That is his final shepherding. That is the ultimate shepherding that Jesus gives each and every one of us. It's one thing to shepherd us here on earth, which we need every day. Amen? Some days more than others. Amen? Some of us more than others. Amen. Yes. We need a shepherd every day, and we should be on our knees in gratitude every day that we have Jesus as our shepherd, that we're already members of his flock, and that there are others yet to be members of the flock, and he is shepherding them, whether they know it or not. Jesus was shepherding us before we knew it. Jesus shepherds us before we're aware of it. Usually we're aware of it in retrospect. Oh, really? I just got shepherded to this point. I could have been down there. And that would have been really, really bad. Okay? Hasn't it happened to you? You got shepherded without knowing it. In retrospect, you say, oh, good. But this, Jesus' final shepherding, taking us on that once ever journey from here to where we are to the presence of God and the presence of Jesus. Where we must be if we are ever to really become like God. Okay? Which is, okay, for those of us who grew up on the Baltimore Catechism 1941 edition, Jack and I, and there's a few others. You did too. Yeah, I know you did. We were told there's heaven, hell, and purgatory, right? Okay. And purgatory is where you do all your time, right? All that temporal punishment due to sin. And you get scrubbed clean until you're perfect to get into heaven. Amen? So it's only those who are perfect who go straight to heaven. Amen? Is that what we were taught? Okay. So the process of becoming like God is called purgatory. Okay? But in John's letter, the process of becoming like God is seeing God as God is. It's not just a matter of doing time, temporal punishment due to sin. It is beholding God as God is. That is the only way to become like God. It's not something we can't do it. And we can't do it in God's absence. It must happen in God's presence. Amen? So you get the visual? The only way any and all of us can become like God is to be in the presence of God. For that process, whatever that is, takes place. Only in the presence of God as God is. And we get to behold that. And whatever is not godlike goes away. Can't coexist with the presence of God. Okay? What I want you to do for the rest of Mass is not close your eyes and stay awake. Okay? I had quite a lot to ask, I'm telling you. No, I wouldn't do that to you. But I want you to visualize someone or someones whom you dearly love, and they dearly love you, and they've already gone back to God. Pick one or more who have gone back to God ahead of you. And I want you to visualize they're becoming more godlike. Whether it was yesterday or whether it was when you were a child, however long they've been gone, for all of that time, they have been beholding the face of God. And they are becoming more godlike by being in God's presence. And so when it's your turn and you get to go back to God, then you will get to see them, and they will be much more godlike than you are. And you have to catch up. Isn't that wonderful? That's a wonderful thing. So I want you to hold that thought and that feeling and that visual as a gift given to us by the first epistle of John.